Alright, so storytelling time. In one of my last videos in which I reviewed the Fantech X16 Tor 2, I mentioned that I sent back my faulty Logitech G603 for RMA that had broken in its scroll wheel after only a few months of use. Yeah. Well, a few months have passed and I talked to guys from whom I bought the mouse from, and they told me that they couldn't get a replacement from Logitech because apparently that mouse is EOL or end of life. They gave me some store credit instead, and after looking around, I decided to replace that mouse with this instead. I'll look at this later. The Razer Basilisk X Hyperspeed. Now, I really like the G603, so it's going to be really interesting to see how this mouse holds up in comparison to that. So without further ado, let's get into reviewing the Razer Basilisk X Hyperspeed, and I'm just gonna call it the Basilisk X, because that's easier. So this mouse costs about 250 ringgit officially here in Malaysia, which is about equal to the $59.99 US asking price over in the States. This pricing pretty much makes it one of the cheapest reputable wireless gaming mice out there, coming in tight with the Logitech G305. Without a battery, it weighs about 83 grams. With a 1100 mAh cell, it comes in at about 104 grams, and with a 2300 mAh cell, which I am using, it weighs in at about 112 grams. Yes, it uses a single AA battery and not a built-in battery, but personally I quite like mice with user replaceable batteries like these because it means that I can just swap it out for a fresh one the moment that it goes flat, and in the event that the battery itself starts to age and just can't hold a charge, I can just swap it out for a new one. There are no USB ports on the mouse whatsoever because the mouse is 100% fully wireless, powered by Razer's Hyperspeed wireless technology with the choice of either 2.4 GHz or Bluetooth. Based on Razer's claim, this mouse lasts up to 285 hours while in Hyperspeed mode and up to 450 hours while in Bluetooth mode. Oh, by the way, you can find the USB receiver for the 2.4 GHz mode under the plastic shroud of the back. The mouse is made for right-handers and as such isn't ambidextrous, has a slightly tilted body that makes it really nice for ergonomics and fits perfectly in my slightly larger hands, with rubber grips on the thumb rest on the left and for the ring and pinky finger for the right, and these all have a really nice touch and feel to them. The rest of the mouse, which include the top and left right clicks, have a rough and black plastic finishing to them, and I really like the texture. The only parts that have a bit more of a glossy plastic finish to them are the bottom, the side buttons, and the small area around the scroll wheel. The mouse itself feels right at home with my claw grip style, but if you're someone who also uses a palm grip, the Basilisk X should feel pretty comfortable for you. The left and right clicks are nice to press on with what I would describe as medium actuation force and have a nice tactile clicky sound to them when pressed. These are using Razer switches and are rated for up to 50 million clicks. The same can be said for the side buttons that are pretty nice to press on and don't exhibit any looseness, and the scroll wheel, which is pretty nice and tight with some pretty distinct scroll steps. Something that I'm not very used to but I actually did like quite a lot is how the middle mouse button requires less actuation force than any of the other mice that I've used before, while still remaining quite clicky. Behind the scroll wheel is where you'll find the DPI switching button, and over on the bottom you'll find the 4 Teflon feet that help the mouse glide smoothly, along with the Razer 5G advanced optical sensor, which is 16,000 DPI, has a 450 IPS tracking speed, and can track up to 40 Gs of acceleration. Razer claims that it has an accuracy of 99.4%, so we'll just have to find out how good the sensor is on this mouse later. Overall, while the Basilisk X still has a very gamery look, it doesn't have a single drop of RGB or lighting in it, if of course you don't count the DPI button that flashes when you press it, and well, I kinda like it. It's a little bit more serious and utilitarian to me, and honestly, with your hand covering the mouse all the time, I don't really see a use in RGB on a mouse, especially if it's wireless, as it'll just eat up your battery. You can of course just use the mouse as is by plugging in the dongle or just connecting via Bluetooth, but if you want to get the most out of it, you're going to want to install Razer Synapse. Here you can customize the individual keys and set up multiple profiles. The Basilisk X has a built-in memory to store one active profile, mess around with the sensitivity, the stages and the polling rate, calibrate your mouse to your mousepad and set the timer for the Basilisk X to enter energy saving mode. Just about the only thing I didn't like was the battery indicator on the top right. Razer could have honestly afforded to show me a percentage here, as I feel that as a user, I would have really liked that. In terms of using the mouse, coming from a mostly wired mouse past, I was pleasantly impressed with the tracking and latency on the Basilisk X. The only wireless mouse that I can really compare it to is the Logitech G603 Lightspeed that I used before I had to send it back to replace it with this, and in all honesty, I feel that Razer has the better wireless solution. Now, I say this because I usually plug my wireless dongle at the rear end of my PC on the rear ports, but if I did that with my G603, I would have some pretty severe cutout issues with very noticeable stuttering of the mouse cursor, so much so that I had to use their bundled USB extender. I really never had such issues when using the Basilisk X in its Hyperspeed wireless mode. This, together with the fact that the G603 doesn't have a built-in memory profile, admittedly kinda makes me a bit happy that I had to change out my mouse to the Basilisk X. Call it a bit of a blessing in disguise. To test the performance of the mouse, I fired up the AimLab game that is currently on early access on Steam and tried out the mouse in the Grid Ultimate Performance test. The mouse was really accurate even when I wasn't particularly 100% and registered my movements and flicks perfectly fine. I tested it again in Bluetooth mode, and the first thing that I noticed after switching the mouse across was the slight difference in acceleration and a bit of latency in the mouse movements, especially if you're doing fast flicks. While I still managed to perform pretty well in game, if you're a gamer looking for the best performance, then you're still going to want to use the USB mode. That said, if your batteries were running a bit flat and you just needed a bit more runtime, using the mouse in Bluetooth mode isn't exactly a huge downgrade in terms of experience. After all the synthetic tests were done, I brought the mouse with me onto a real game to test it out, and just like my tests earlier, I was thoroughly impressed with the mouse as it was super comfortable to use, it never cut out during the high intensity moments, and I never once felt as if I was being let down because I couldn't really tell the difference between this and a wired mouse. So, quick closing thoughts then on the Basilisk X. Well, if you're looking for a balls-to-the-wall mouse with all the features and RGB and whatnot, then you're going to have to look elsewhere, because what I think the Basilisk X Hyperspeed is a no-frills gaming mouse with great performance, great connectivity and versatility, and great ergonomics. At an asking price of about 250 ringgit or $60 US, and you know, sometimes you can even find this mouse on sale for about 180 ringgit. It really comes in at a very good value proposition, as it gets a lot of the basics of what makes a good gaming mouse right.
Amazing work, dude. Okay, now that's how you run the pit. Okay.
Second time I'm doing a mouse review and suddenly I'm jumping from $9 US to $60 US. Yeah, anyway, do the YouTube thing of liking this video if you liked it, subscribing, dropping a comment down below on what you think about the Basilisk X, and remember to get notified with the bell icon so that you don't miss any of the new videos the moment that they go live. This is Yang, the tech rodent, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Oh, and let me know what you guys think about the audio in this video, because it's all captured with a different microphone, this one right here. If you want to know more about this microphone, then you're going to have to stick around, as I will be doing a review on it sometime soon. Yeah, now you can go, and I can go too.